Voting for BrickLink's Series 9 designer program ends on October 17th. Today, I'm going to go over my favorite builds from the series, and at the end, I'll go over how to vote for your favorites as well. Let's get into it. If you like medieval LEGO content, please subscribe. I post a new video every week. Let's start off with some of the bigger builds that I think have a fair chance of winning this out. As we know, typically only one castle is picked every series, so let's try to spot the one. All of these in the video are my favorites of the bunch. Starting off with a designer we've seen before, Brickhammer. He designed the Outlaw Forest Den that we all love and returned this series with the Driftwood Keep. This design is just stunning. Beautiful rock work to awesome castle walls and details all over. Using the new Kraken faction for inspiration, he has given us a massive sea castle. I personally love how he used tons of the shields everywhere as decoration, and the small boat is such a nice touch here. This is a dollhouse style build that also folds up much like his last build, so there are plenty of display options. I love how this build is an actual castle and it fits the Kraken faction. I'd much rather buy this than a gumball machine to get these figures as well, so that helps a ton. The one thing that might hurt this castle, and you'll see as we go on, is tons of creators did a sea castle this go around, so it's going to be hard to choose a favorite. Overall though, I think this build is absolutely beautiful, and clearly the LEGO group loves his designs, and it shows why. I could see this being a great display piece, and honestly, I'd have so much fun building and playing with it. I think this one is for sure up there, especially after the huge success of the Outlaw Forest Den. Next, let's look at a similar build, the Squid Island Castle. Right away, it's obvious which faction fortifies this one as well. You'll see there's a lot of these type of builds in this series, and almost all of them have those 4 new factions. This is going to be a huge plus, since I bet they're coming to Pick-a-Brick sooner than we all think. That being said, this one stands out with its colors and details that we don't see on any other castle. The use of these round plates to create the half-circle decorations on the castle is honestly great. It instantly stood out for me. Also, using bricks to build Kraken designs all over the castle is just so cool. This castle is also a dollhouse and fold-out style as well, which gives it great display options. What sets it apart a ton in my eyes is the amount of details on the inside though. There is a ton going on in here, and it's so nice to see. There are a couple things that get me on this castle though. I think leaning into the teal color versus the green color might hurt it in the long run. I feel that the green color is more appealing to the eye and pops more alongside the tan and gray bricks. Another thing is that the figures are kind of all over the place. This isn't too big of a deal because LEGO would probably revamp it anyways, since they've been doing that a lot more. Rather than having 3 factions in the build, they would probably reduce it to 2 factions and add more figures. Lastly, I don't like that we don't see a small ship build. I feel like that would be a staple of any sea castle such as this, so just seeing that one little boat might hurt it. Overall though, a great build, and one that really stands out in this big lot of castles this series. For number 3, we got the Mistguard Castle. And although at first glance this castle isn't as tall as the others, it is really stunning once you look at it more. The castle itself folds out into a massive seaside castle fortified by the Griffin Knights. The dark red color and white walls really help it pop and stand out from what we've seen in the past. Also, those rounded edges of the castle all over are something very different than we've seen from many castles, so I think this is a huge plus for it. If you look at past BrickLink Designer programs, each castle is a bit different, so this standing out in that way might do it well. The scene is also kind of funny. We see an awesome Kraken longboat about to raid this castle, and a poor fisherman stuck in the middle. We all know LEGO loves humor, so this is going to go great for it. Now, we don't see the inside too much, but can see some details around, and it looks great. The figures here I think are one of the best parts though. It has a ton of them, a ton of griffins and krakens. Although it's pretty standard figures, we know that can be spiced up later, but they made sure to have as many as possible. If we're going to have a huge castle with tons of pieces, we might as well have the max amount of figures, so I love this. Now, the height not being too tall might hurt its wow factor for sure, but overall I love this build and think it's a great contender. Now back to a tall one. We got the Gilded Island Keep. I honestly love when designers change up the standard brick color, but most of the time, it does hurt its votes. It can for sure be a double-edged sword, but this one is honestly very appealing to the eye. The color isn't too bright, and goes with the Kraken's color scheme pretty nicely. This castle has some great details throughout and a very detailed brick-built Kraken that is unmatched so far. This is also a dollhouse fold-out style, so many display options, and is also modular to get into some of the buildings better. Now personally, I'm not a huge fan of modular, but this one is tall, so I feel like it's going to help a big time. The figures here look like some effort was put in, but not sure if the style is right for me. But again, we've seen LEGO fix this a ton in BrickLink Designer programs. The interior is great though. Tons of details and great color scheme. This is the first build where I've seen the Krakens being portrayed more high class, so I kind of like that. And it makes it a bit different. Something that's hurting this build and a lot of other builds like it is the boats. These boats just aren't going to cut it compared to the awesome small brick built ones that we've seen. That is going to set apart a lot of these builds, I feel like. All in all though, it's another great option. Now for something a little bit different, and because I didn't want to leave out the horse and serpent knights, we have this town hall build. The color scheme on it right away shows the Serpent Knight colors off, and the purple is honestly beautiful for a build like this. It is a little interesting that the Horse Knight shields are used as decorations, so it seems they're still allies in this build, kind of like the 3-in-1 Horse Knight Castle build. Inside of it, we see a courtroom, and I honestly doubt most of us Castle fans have something of this sort, so it'd be different and bring us a lot of variety. This build is modular and brings a lot of factions together, but it makes a bit more sense than the others. I can see so much possible lore coming from a build like this. Its biggest downfall though is going to be the scale and the piece count. When people think of almost 4,000 pieces, they expect a much bigger build. I feel if this build was closer to 2,000 pieces, it would be in a lot higher regards just because of the price. Also, the scale is more so for the medieval blacksmith and would look out of scale compared to our flagship castle, the Lion Knight's Castle. Overall though, the concept is great, the details and display are great, but the price tag would hurt it. Now for another different one, we got the Citadel of the Snake. A big desert castle, and honestly, I feel like it does fit the faction pretty nicely. I wouldn't have thought to use the Serpent Knights as a desert faction, but that hint of purple on the castle really works. I know that I want a desert castle one day for my desert faction, and I love how the sand color was used for the bricks. The design of the castle is honestly beautiful, using a lot of architecture we don't normally see in our western castles, and I think it really helps. This castle is another fold-out castle, so many different ways to display, and each angle is stunning. Now the bad part. We have the Driftwood Keep that was just announced for the series before, so I highly doubt this castle will make it through, but I wanted to mention it because I love the design. Another thing a lot of medieval fans won't get behind is the cannons in the keep. Typically, we don't bring those in, but I can see how it would fit coming out of the medieval ages. Overall, I think this is a great build and gives me great inspiration for my own desert castle one day. Now, these next three are my top picks. I personally like them the most for a few reasons: the piece count, the style, and the ships. First of these is going to be the Haven Stronghold. The piece count on this is the first castle to be under 3,000 pieces, since all the ones prior were closer to the max of 4,000 pieces. I think I stand for most when I say we are tired of the price tag being over $300 for any BrickLink castle, so I think it helps these few builds a ton. Here we have a corner castle display that is modular, and I think it fits the Krakens very much. I feel they wouldn't have a massive castle, so when I saw this, it stuck. The castle itself is a really nice display piece and has a lot going on. I also love how it uses both the teal and dark green for its colors rather than choosing just one. Now, it being just modular means it doesn't open up, and being a corner castle means it can't be displayed at multiple angles easily. But something that sets this one aside is the ship. I loved seeing this take on the medieval cog. Most people are using Viking longboats for the Krakens, but giving them a cog fits nicely as well. And not to mention that awesome Kraken on the front of it. The figures themselves are really nice and thought out as well. But I'm not sure the relation of the serpents to the Krakens, if they're a friend or foe. All in all, I think this is a great build and great option. But honestly, I don't think it'll make the cut due to the displayability being a lot lower than the others that have multiple options. But on to my last two favorites. Here we got the Battle of the Fjord. At first glance, I thought this build was much different. Closer to 2,000 piece count and much brighter than others using those fall colors. It makes it stand out a ton. I also love how the designer named the ship and the gateway. The lore here is going to be super fun if it comes out. The scene itself has these gate towers actually connecting using a mechanical drawbridge, and I love that effect. I don't think we've seen something like this in LEGO Castle before, and that draws my eyes to it right away. The Kraken longboat here is great too, and it being just big enough to fit between the towers is just awesome. It may be too close of a fit if you ask me, but still very fun. The towers are also nicely built and very detailed. A couple downsides to it though. I don't see the Griffin Knight colors in the towers themselves, and that leaves me a bit wanting. Yes, the autumn color scheme is nice for the scenery, but I'm not sure I would have used it on the castle itself too. Secondly, we got more than two factions here, with the Wagoner being a horse knight. This would have to be changed. I feel like there's just too much going on there. Outside of this though, we got a very nice build. Very detailed, decent piece count, and a good amount of figures for the new factions for us. Lastly, we've got my favorite build of them all, and also the smallest build of them all, the medieval Cog and Longship. I think it's no surprise that I want these. I want some medieval ships to come out already. I think it's an untapped market, and even the pirate fans would get behind it. That being said, this build is just so fun. We got the Kraken longboat, which we've seen in a ton of builds for this series, and I think it's going to be a staple for many people's Kraken faction going forward. I think the longboat fits the faction very well, but what I like most here is the Griffin Knight Cog. I love how cogs are making an appearance more in LEGO Castle and think LEGO needs to go for it. This cog also being semi-modular to store cargo makes sense as well. The details on these ships are great, using their faction's colors as accents and even having 2 modes for their sails, one up and one down. Also, the amount of figures for this small build matching some of the bigger builds is a really nice touch. A downside to this build though is it's small. Although the ships are great, we could see more, like a little island part or some animals, etc. And if it's chosen, I'm sure LEGO will amp it up some to make it more marketable. Overall, I love what I'm seeing from this build and really want a cog in my medieval kingdom. Building ships is not my strong suit at all, so this takes the cake for me. Now, if you're unsure how to vote for these, I'll go over real quick how to find it. First, head to BrickLink and make sure you're logged in. Next, from the home page, go to the BrickLink Designer Program tab and then down to the current series. Once here, find Series 9 and let's scroll down to see the entries. When voting, you have 3 options: not for me, like it, and love it. I would recommend voting how you actually feel and not just putting love it for every castle. A castle option is guaranteed to be picked for sure, so make sure only to vote love it for your favorite ones. Now, there are 436 entries, so to knock it down a few, be sure to check out the filters. To find all the ones that may be castle, I like to check off medieval/castle, space, sci-fi fantasy, pirate, and history/period. I make sure to check all of these because lots of builds that are fantasy get thrown in with the space. Also, anything that has a ship sometimes gets thrown in with the pirates, and history period and medieval castle are pretty self-explanatory. From here, we've halved our designs, so happy voting. Now, on the bright side of all of this, we can see that the Pick-a-Brick store is going to get all of these new factions, so that is a huge win for us Castle fans in 2026. This series has so many contenders, and I can't wait to see what's chosen. It is a shame that there weren't some more smaller builds this time around, so chances are we'll be getting another big boy for LEGO Castle. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you want to see more behind the scenes, be sure to check out my channel memberships to be a part of my inner circle. Until next time, like and subscribe for more medieval LEGO content every week.